हीनाक्षरसमाम्नयम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। नत्वा सरस्वतीं देवीं शुद्धां गुण्यां करोम्यहं पाणिनीयप्रवेशाय लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदी। लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुद्याः सुधा टीकायां परस्सन्निकर्षसंहिता इति अग्रिमं सूत्रं प्रारभामहे। लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदी मूलं वर्णानाम् अतिशयितः सन्निधिः संहिता संज्ञा स्यात्। अतः अत्र संहिता इति काचित् संज्ञा पाठ्यते. So there are actually these two samnyas. There is samhita and there is avasana. So तत्र क्रमेणैव प्रथमाध्याये से चतुर्थे पादे अन्ते इदं सूत्रद्वयं वर्तते. परस्सन्निकर्ष संहिता and viramo vasanam. The last two sutras of first adhyaya. प्रथमाध्याय से चतुर्थ पादस्य सूत्रद्वयम् अन्ते विद्यमानं परस्सन्निकर्ष संहिता and viramo vasanam. Opposite meanings. परः सन्निकर्ष संहिता. So this defines samhita as सन्निकर्ष. सन्निकर्ष इत्युक्ते closeness. परः सन्निकर्ष. Extreme closeness of letters is samhita. And the exact opposite, the virama, the lack of closeness, is called avasana. So kind of opposite samhita and avasana. सामान्यरूपेण क्रमेणैव एते द्वे सूत्रे पाठ्यते, परन्तु अत्र कौमुद्यां तादृशं नास्ति. लघुकौमुद्यां परस्सन्निकर्ष संहिता अत्र पाठ्यते, विरामवसनम् I think in the अजन्तपुल्लिङ्ग प्रकरणम्. Anyway, so परस्सन्निकर्ष संहिता इत्यत्र संज्ञा अस्ति संहिता इति. सन्निकर्षः इति उद्देश्यम्. So anytime we start, we need to know what is uddeshyam and what is vidheyam. That is compulsory. So uddeshya is something that we are already aware of. I think a few people told they are still not clear with the concepts. So uddeshya is something that we are already aware of, we are talking about. Vidheya is something that is being newly defined. So atra anena sutrena kimuchyate yaha parassannikarshaha iti namna jnayate तस्य एव संहिता इति संज्ञा भवति. अतः सन्निकर्षः इत्युक्ते क्लोज्नेस इति ज्ञातपूर्वः विषयः. सो दैट इज उद्देश्य. कथं सिद्ध्यति अयं शब्दः? सम नि एंड कर्ष. कर्ष इत्यत्र कृष इति धातुः, तत्र घञ् इति प्रत्ययः, कृष टू पुल इति अर्थः. कर्ष इज कृष प्लस घञ्, तत्र सम उपसर्गपूर्वकः नि उपसर्गपूर्वकः घय प्रत्यांतः कृष धातुः, सन्निकर्ष क्लोज्नेस सान्निध्यम इति अर्थः. परः सन्निकर्षः extreme closeness. So out of multiple possible closenesses, whichever is the most possible. So extreme closeness of letters. Paraha ityukte atishayitah. Paraha ityukte sreshtah. Param brahma iti vadamah. So paraha ityukte sreshtah. Paraha sannikarsha. Extreme closeness of letters is called samhita. अतः तत्र मूले अपि उच्यते वर्णानां अतिशयित सन्निधिः, extreme closeness of the letters, samhita samyah syat. This para word is very interesting. Usually para has a meaning which is later. So anantaram ityasmin arthe para shabdah asti, parantu atra vidyamanah para shabdah extreme, atishayitah, shrestha ityasmin arthe prayujyate. A slight tangential discussion, not related to this sutram but related to this word. We also see this word in some other very well-known sutram. Which one is that?
अनुनासिकात् परो
अनुनासिकात् परोनुस्वारः.
अनुस्वारः.
तत्र अनुनासिकात् परोनुस्वारः इत्यत्र परशब्दस्य कः अर्थः?
If not anunasika,
Something completely different. अनुनासिकं नास्ति चेद अनुस्वारः. सो पर तत्र डिफरेंट इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे प्रयुज्यते, भिन्नम् इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे प्रयुज्यते. सो पर इति शब्दः तत्र अनुनासिकं भवति चेत् अनुस्वारः न भवति, अनुनासिक भिन्नस्थलेषु अनुस्वारः भवति. So that is another use case of para. So we have one use case of para which is shrestha. There is another use case of para which is other, alternative. Yet another sutram where para is used.
pratyayah and parasya.
What does it
Parascha.
mean? Parascha. What does parascha mean in that sutram?
So,
After.
after.
After. So yet another meaning. So see this. Anunasikat paraha anuswaraha means different. Paraha sannikarsha sanhita means atishayitaha. Pratyayah parascha ityukte anantaram. One more sutram.
Urandraparah.
Urandraparaha. Urandraparaha ityukte anantaram. So in all these sutras, there is a meaning anantaram. Urandraparaha. Then ekah purva parayoho ityatra anantaram iti arthah asti. Pratyayah parascha ityatrapi anantaram iti arthah asti. So a typical meaning of para word is anantaram. Another meaning of para word is sreshtha or atishayita, which is used in parasanikarsha sanhita. Yet another meaning of para is other, which is used in Anunasikat Paronuswarha. The sutra that I was expecting nobody said is Vipratishedhe Param Karyam. विप्रतिषेधे परम कार्यम इत्यत्रापि परम इति शब्दः दृश्यते परः इति नास्ति परम इति शब्दः दृश्यते तत्र परम इति शब्दस्य कः अर्थः इत्यस्मिन् विषये भाष्ये महती चर्चा कृता अस्ति सामान्यरूपेण विप्रतिषेधे परम कार्यम इत्यत्र परम इत्युक्ते अनन्तरम इति अस्माभिः पठितम् विप्रतिषेधे परम कार्यम इफ देयर इज अ विप्रतिषेध तत्र अनन्तरं विद्यमानं सूत्रं प्रामुख्येन प्रयुज्यते सो तत्र तस्मिन् सन्दर्भे परम इति शब्दस्य अर्थः आफ्टर लेटर अनन्तरम् इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे प्रत्ययः परश्च नो चेत् एकः पूर्वपरयोः उरण्ड्रपरः इत्येतेषु सूत्रेषु पर इति शब्दः यस्मिन् अर्थे प्रयुज्यते अनन्तरं तस्मिन्नेव अर्थे विप्रतिषेधे परम कार्यम् इत्यत्रापि प्रयुज्यते परन्तु तत्र विप्रतिषेधे परम कार्यम् इत्यत्र विद्यमानः परम इति शब्दः श्रेष्ठम् इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे भवेत् इति भाष्यकारेण तत्र प्रतिपादितमस्ति. So Bhashyakara says para has multiple meanings. We just now saw different sutras have different meanings of para, and in Vipratishedhe param karyam, even though traditionally accepted meaning is that param is later, Bhashyakara proposes that we should have param ityukte shreshtham. Just like in this sutram, param ityukte atishayitam shreshthah. अनेनैव प्रकारेण विप्रतिषेधे श्रेष्ठं कार्यम् इति भवति. कः अर्थः अस्य? When there is a vipratishedha, you do not see which is the purva sutra and the para sutra, but you see which is an appropriate sutram. Param Shrestha means what? Prayogasya sadhutvam yena sutrena siddhyati. Whichever is an appropriate sutram for the prayoga, we call it Shrestha because it gives some valuable information. So any sutram out of the two which gives a valid form which is closer to the prayoga, we call it as a Shrestha sutram and we take that sutram as a winner amongst the Vipratishedha. The immediate implication of this particular change of definition is that you do not need to teach a separate concept called Purva Vipratishedha. किमस्ति पूर्व विप्रतिषेध is opposite of विप्रतिषेध. विप्रतिषेध इत्यनेन परम इत्युक्ते अनन्तरं विद्यमानं सूत्रं कार्यं करोति. पूर्व विप्रतिषेध इत्यनेन पूर्वं विद्यमानं सूत्रं कार्यं करोति. So this confusion, sometimes it is anantaram, sometimes it is purvam. In order to avoid this confusion, the Bhashyakara simply gets rid of the concept of purva vipratisheddha and vipratisheddha itself, and he says vipratisheddhe param karyam, param ityukte sreshtham karyam. When there is a vipratisheddha, choose the sutram which gives you the right prayoga, because prayoga sharanaha vyakaranaha. Choose the sutram which gives you the right prayoga and use that prayoga. अनेन प्रकारेण तत्र तादृशं चिन्तनं कृतम् अस्ति. सः सम्पूर्णरूपेण भिन्नः विषयः. तत्र तादृशं सूत्रस्य अर्थविधानं सर्वैः नानुमन्यते. So you do not see this kind of meaning in Kashika or Kaumudi or any other places, but this is a very strong paksha that is justified by Bhashyakara in Vipratishedhe Param Karyam. Vipratishedhe Param Karyam is a sutram that needs to be learnt on its own. The line by line bhashya needs to be learned. In fact, I should teach it at some point in time. Very beautiful, some 20-25 examples he has taken, and he has shown what is vipratishedah, what is antaranga bahiranga, what is nitya anitya. phenomenal discussion of like Vipratishad is done in that sutram. Like one of the very rare bhashas that you should really read line by line. I'll teach it at some point in time if we have time. Anyway, coming back, Paraha Sannikarasha Samhita, extreme closeness of letters iti samhita iti namna jnayate, varnanam atishaya sannidhihi sannhita samnyasyat, tatra paraha sannikarsha iti, paraha ityukte atishayitah, atishayita is extreme, so shrestha iti api vaktum shakyate, sannikarsha iti samipyam, यथा मया उक्तं सम उपसर्ग पूर्वक नि उपसर्ग पूर्वक कृष धातोः घञ् प्रत्ययन्त रूपम् अर्धमात्रा कालिक व्यवधान अभावः. So extreme is very hand waving. We need to have a proper technical definition. अतः न्यायशास्त्रे इयं व्याख्या दीयते. द्वयोः वर्णयोः उच्चारणयोः मध्ये न्यूनातिन्यूनम् अर्धमात्रा यावत् कालः अवश्यं भवति. So below that is not humanly possible. You have to breathe out, breathe in, there might be some issues. So at least the minimum time that a healthy human being with no speech defects can have is half a matra, which is even beyond our understanding. So that is acceptable. Because if you say atishaita and if you try to somehow interpret it in a manner of perfection, it will be zero. And zero is not possible because the time required for pronunciation of a letter is itself half a matra. So tatra shunya matra yavat kale kasyapi uchcharanam na sambhavati. So the minimum time required for pronouncing a letter is half a matra. So ardha matra kalika vyavadhanam tatra anumanyate. So ardha matra adhika kala, adhika is more, ardha matra adhika kala vyavadhanasya abhavaha ardha matra kala vyavadhanasya avarjaniyatvat. So even in the Nyaya Shastra, the Vyakhya that is given for the Samhita, which is written over here, Swabhava Siddha Ardhamatra. Ardhamatra is natural, it cannot be broken down further. Swabhava Siddha Ardhamatra Atirikta. Beyond that, any additional delay is not allowed. Swabhava Siddha Ardhamatra Atirikta Kala Vyavaya Shunyah Samhita iti bhavaha. A more technical definition or a more appropriate definition is actually Swabhava Siddha Ardhamatra Kalika Vyavayatirikta Vyavayashunyatvam Samhita. Understand? He's saying Vyavaya is break. Kidrishaha Vyavayaha, Kidrisham Vyavadhanam, Swabhava Siddha Ardhamatra Kalika Vyavadhanam. A half a matra gap is okay. Tad atirikta, beyond that, vyavaya shunyatvam. Shunya is non-existence. So swabhava siddha ardhamatra kalika vyavaya atirikta vyavaya shunyatvam. Non-existence of a gap beyond the naturally occurring half a matra gap. द्वयोः वर्णयोः उच्चारणयोः मध्ये स्वभावतः अर्धमात्रा यावत् कालः विद्यते एव, परन्तु तस्मात् अधिकं कालान्तरं यत्र द्वयोः वर्णयोः मध्ये न विद्यते तत्र तयोः मध्ये संहिता अस्ति इति उच्यते. When two letters are pronounced immediately one after another only with a natural unavoidable gap of half a matra, we say there is a samhita between the two letters. That is exactly being written over here. Ardhamatra kala vyavadhanasya avarjaniyatvat. Varjaniya is avoiding. That's not possible. तदा एतद् अभिप्रेत्य आह अतिशयित इत्यादिना संहिता इत्यस्य नव्यन्यायभाषायाम् अर्थः स्वभावसिद्ध अर्धमात्रा अतिरिक्त कालव्यवाय शून्यत्वं संहिता इति भावः. Now my question, fundamental question, why do you need a Samnya Sutram called Parasannikarsha Samhita? What will happen if I get rid of this Sutram from Ashtadhyayi?
Different styles of speaking. Someone who speaks slowly or who speaks fast, and
That's
someone may
okay.
retake.
I'm not saying I get rid of the concept called Samhita. The concept of Samhita may be there in Vyakaranam. I'm not objecting that. Why do I need a Sutram called Parasannikarsha Samhita? See, there is no Sutram called Sandhi. There is no Sutra means Ashtadhyayi which tells you Sandhi. But you all know what is a Sandhi, right? Everybody knows what is a Sandhi. So, in the same way, Samhita is a very common topic. Why would a particular sutram or why would a particular samnya be defined in Ashtadhyayi?
When is Sandhi applicable, we don't know. Only if Samhita is
No,
there,
that is
Sandhi is
okay. So
there.
you teach, right? Where is whenever is a sandhi applicable, it is applicable when there is a samhita. What is samhita?
Samhita.
Extreme closeness of letters is samhita. You teach
Hmm.
that. See, akshara, varna, swara, vyanjana. Are these defined in Ashtadhyayi? Do you have a sutram which says what is a vyanjana? So understand this point. What I was saying is that in Ashtadhyayi there are a few samnyas defined. Why do you need a samnya in Ashtadhyayi was my very fundamental question. You don't have a samnya for swara, you don't have a samnya for vyanjana, you don't have a samnya for anything else. Why do you need a samnya specifically in Ashtadhyayi? The answer is यदि अष्टाध्याय्याः अन्येषु सूत्रेषु तस्याः संज्ञायाः किञ्चित् प्रयोजनं वर्तते तर्हि तत्र अष्टाध्याय्यां संज्ञा प्रकरणे संज्ञा सूत्रम इत्याख्ये सूत्रे तस्याः संज्ञायाः विधानं क्रियते. The Samnya Prakaranam of Ashtadhyayi is not a blanket dictionary of Vyakarana Shastra. It will not tell you words which are not required in Ashtadhyayi to be defined. परंतु वृद्धिः इति शब्दः अस्ति, संयोगः इति शब्दः अस्ति, अन्येषु सूत्रेषु तस्य प्रयोगः भवति. So when a student goes to Vruddhi Rechi and asks what is Vruddhi, it is a technical grammatical term which needs to be defined. अतः वृद्धिरादेश इति सूत्रं पाठ्यते. अनेनैव प्रकारेण परसन्निकर्ष संहिता इति सूत्रं किमर्थं पाठ्यते इति चेत् संहिता इति शब्दः तत्र कुत्रचित् सूत्रे प्रयुक्तः अस्ति. So somewhere you see Samhita somewhere and then you ask what is Samhita and then you need some make and break definition of Samhita, and that's why he doesn't bother giving a real definition like Swabhava Siddha Ardhamatra Tirikta Kala Vyavaya Shunyatvam. That would be a real technical definition of Samhita. He doesn't bother them. He wants to just remind people that in Vyakarana Shastra, whatever Samhita we are using is basically extreme closeness. And if you want to know more about extreme closeness, you can refer to other books or you can refer to your experience and you will understand more about it. So अत्रापि परसन्निकर्ष संहिता इत्यत्र संहिता इति शब्दः किमर्थम् अत्र सूत्रे पाठितः अस्ति इति चेत् तत्र अन्येषु सूत्रेषु तस्य प्रयोगः दृश्यते. कुत्र दृश्यते? सो संहितायाम् इति अधिकारः अस्ति. In the samhitayam adhikara, you need the word samhita. So sometimes when a student studies something called samhitayam, he might end up in asking what this exact samhita thing is. And then he can be pointed back and we can say parasannikarša samhita. Kim nama samhita? Paraha sannikarshaha yaha asti tastyeva samhita iti nama diyate. Ayameva samhita iti vishayah. Ayameva samhita iti shabdah. Samhitayam इत्यस्मिन् अधिकारे वर्तते इत्यस्मिन् अधिकारे प्रयुक्तः अस्ति. How many samhitadhikaras are there? Does anybody know? So there are 3 different samhitadhikaras in Ashtadhyayi. You can actually search over here and you can say samhitayam. There is a samhitadhikara in 6.1 samhitayam. What is there in this samhitadhikara?
Sandhikaryani.
Which sandhikaryani?
Ach Sandhi.
Ach sandhikaryani. All the ach sandhikaryas are in this first samhitadhikara, samhitayam. Kim udaharanam?
Iko Yanachi.
इको यणचि. इकः स्थाने यण स्यात् अचि संहितायाम्. If there is a samhita, then ikah sthane yan iti bhavati iti atra ashayah. And that is the reason why you say samhita asti chedeva sandhi bhavati. So all this now fits in the right place. Sandhi iti nityah asti, samhita iti vikalpena, samhita asti chet sandhi bhavati. Okay. What is the second sutram? 63114 samhitayam. What is happening in this adhikara? Why is this samhitayam sutram present over there? I don't think you will know this. So this particular 63114 samhitayam is a part of an adhikara called aluguttara pade. Samasaha yada kriyate tada uttarapadasya upasthito purvapade kinchit parivartanam bhavati. In a samasa, when the two words come together, in some situations, the uttarapada of the samasa causes some change in the purvapada. The example is Vishwamitra. Tatra Vishwa iti purvapadam, Mitra iti uttarapadam. Parantu tatra samasaha yada kriyate, tatra Vishwa ityasya Vishwa iti bhavati. Vishwamitra. Another example, Amaravati. Amara and Vati. When these two combine together, it is Amaravati. Now here there is not even a samasa. Vatup iti pratyayah asti. Asmin pratyaye pare amara ityasya amara iti bhavati. This karya happens in the Samhita. Only when the Samhita is there, Amara will become Amaravati. Vishwa will become Vishwamitra. अतः अत्र अयं संहिताधिकारः अत्र पाठितः अस्ति. This samhitadhikara, the 63114 samhitadhikara, is only for a situation where you have two padas, purva pada and uttara pada. It need not be a samasa. There is a purva component, then there is an uttara component, and पूर्वपदे उत्तरपदस्य उपस्थितौ किंचित परिवर्तनं भवति. Clear? Any questions on this?
So, Mahoday, this does not apply to changes in the Uttarapadam. So, like, for example, Rajan Shabdaha becomes Rajah, right?
That change is because of another pratyay that comes over there. So, Rajah Sakhibhyas touch ittenena touch pratyay krute tatra nakarasya lopah kriyate. So,
Oh,
that is a completely different prakriya. Tadhita prakriya asti. That's not related to this.
In the Samhitayam is why is not there for Hal Sandhi.
Correct. So, third संहिताधिकार तयोर्वावचि संहितायाम तत्र तृतीयः संहिताधिकारः प्रारभते. That is for हल संधि. So, hal sandho vidyamanaha samhitadhikara is third. Remember, where are all the hal sandhi sutras? It's in 8.3 and 8.4. Stohoshchunashchuhu, jhalan jashjashi, and so on. All these are in 8.3 and 8.4. तत्र तयोर्वावच संहितायाम् अष्टमाध्यायस्य द्वितीयपादस्य अन्तिमं सूत्रम. This is the last sutram of 8.2. This samhitadhikara continues all the way till end of ashtadhyayi. 8468 iti sutram yavat ayam samhitadhikara prachalati. So you have three samhitadhikaras. The first samhitadhikara is for the swara sandhi. The second samhitadhikara is for the purva pada karyam in presence of the uttara pada. The third samhitadhikara is for the hal sandhi. Okay.
There are only three places where Samhita is coming as an adhikara. But technically, any pratyaya you attach or any pradigana you attach, any prefix or suffix, Samhita is the prerequisite for all karyas. It is a default requirement for everything, right? Even for Rama plus Su. But specifically, they are talking about Samhita only for the Sandhi karyam.
So
When
what I
should
say?
it not be a prerequisite for all karyams?
Anybody has any comment on this point? So yatra samhita asti tatra samhitayam ityasmin adhikare vidyamanaani sutrani prayujyante. In the same way, what Sudhaji pointed out was that there are other situations where a samhita is required. So even if there is no explicit samhitayam adhikara, the fact that supratyaya is applied on Rama only when there is samhita. If there is no samhita or if there is no vivaksha of the samhita, the supratyaya cannot be applied on Rama. Right? That is the reason why we say samhita ekapade nitya. And therefore, that sutram should also be in the samhita adhikara. Let's take another example. Choho kuhu iti sutram asti. Kimuchyate? Choho kuhu iti sutrena ch varnasya jhal varne pare ka vargadeshah bhavati. So you need a samhita. So what Sudhaji was pointing was only simple thing. There are three samhita adhikaras. Fair enough. We are not arguing about that. There are other situations which are not in the samhita adhikara, but still they expect something very similar to a samhita. Pratyaya addition, like supratyaya in swaujas, or a karyam like chohokuhu. Chohokuhu is in 8 to 30, which is not in the samhitadhikara. Samhitadhikara starts in 8 to 108. So this is not in the samhitadhikara, but still you need a samhita before this j gets converted to g. So there are situations in ashtadhyayi where samhita sadrusham karyam bhavati parantu vishishta rupena samhitadhikarah nasti. This is the only point that she was trying to say, and 100% correct. There is no second thought about it. Any comments on this particular aspect?
So why haven't these also been put into the Samhita?
That's a great question. That is exactly what we are going to talk right now. Before that, there is a comment over here. There is no karyam in Prakriti and Pratyaya for Samhita. Combination of Prakriti and Pratyaya itself is on Samhita. Forget about additional karyam. The combination of Prakriti and Pratyaya is Samhita. Okay, so if there is no Samhita, the Su Pratyaya cannot come and the Pada cannot be formed. So Suktingantam Padam Tatra Samhita iti nasti tarhi Padam iti Samnya eva na bhavet. So whether there is a Karya, whether there is no Karya is completely irrelevant. Rama plus Su, the entire thing gets called Padam. Why? Because there is Samhita sitting over there. In a sentence like Ramaha Krishnaha Chagachati, you cannot take Rama of Ramaha and Su of Krishnaha and call it a Padam. It is also Subantam. There is Anta at end of something. So it's you can still call it Subantam, but you don't call it because there is no specific Samhita present over there. The fact that Rama and Su are combined together and Ramaha is formed, it is called Padam, is because there is a Samhita in your mind, even though there is no explicit Sahitadhikara anywhere. You have to understand this point, and I'm so glad one of you brought it up instead of me telling that there are situations in Ashtadhyayi where a Samhita Sadrusha Karya is needed, but Samhita is not explicitly defined.
So when we say Samhita Ekapade Nityam, that is not in one of the sutras or
No,
anything.
Samhita Ekapade Nitya is basically, he talks about the option, where a Samhita is optional and where it is compulsory. He says in Ekapada, in Samasa, Upasarga and Dhatu, it is compulsory in the sense you have to follow the rules. संहितायाम इत्यस्मिन् अधिकारे विद्यमानानि सूत्राणि तत्र प्रवर्तन्ते न प्रवर्तन्ते सः भिन्नः विषयः. Is there a samhita at the level of paras sannikarsha samhita? Is there a parah sannikarsha? Is what is it being told? And yes, there will be a paras sannikarsha. Therefore, some samhita specific karya will happen. So see, only one thing that is being taught right now is that Samhita is extreme closeness of letters. You have three explicit Samhita Adhikaras in Ashtadhyayi. The point to note is that there are other situations like Choho Kuhu, for example, or like Pratyayaha Parascha, for example, where a Samhita kind of association is necessary, but explicit Samhita Adhikara is not present. सो संहितायाम् इत्यस्मिन् अधिकारे विद्यमानानि कार्याणि संहितायां भवति इति अस्तु, परन्तु संहितायाम् अधिकारे विद्यमानानि एव कार्याणि संहितायां भवन्ति, अन्यानि कार्याणि संहितायां न भवन्ति इति वचनम् अनुचितमस्ति. There will be karyas outside the samhita adhikara which will still possibly require samhita. All that I'm saying is this. Any questions or objections on this particular statement?
My only thing was that it should have been 111. He should have started the Ashtadhyayi with Samhitayam
And then
only.
he should have said that entire Ashtadhyayi is in the
Ah,
Samhita.
ah.
Let's come to that point. Think about it. Is there anything in Ashtadhyayi which does not require a Samhita?
See, we say Varna Angakaryam Valiyah. So Varnakaryam requires Samhita. Samhitayam Satyam Varnakaryam. When we say Angakaryam, it is automatic. No, that what is the necessity to say Samhitam? Angakaryam happens.
Where is it saying?
Yasmat Pratyayah Vidhi.
As soon as you say Yasmat Pratyayaha, you're assuming some kind of Samhita over there, right? Otherwise, on the 1 kilometer later, there will be Pratyaya and there is a Pratipadika Maurya. Why don't you take Yasmat Pratyayaha? When you say Yasmat Pratyaya, some kind of Samhita is assumed. Ramaha Krishnaha cha gacchati. There is a Su Pratyaya in Krishna and there is a Rama Pratipadika. You combine that Su Pratyaya of Krishna with Rama and say that is a Padam. Subantam asti. Supyasya ante vidyate. Subantam. So why don't you do that? Because you're implicitly assuming extreme closeness even if it is not Samhita Adhikara. you are explicitly assuming the closeness between Rama and Su. You're assuming that there is nothing in between, and then only you call it Padam. Is this clear or is this not clear? When you are saying Pratyayaha Parascha, you're assuming that there is a Samhita. So this particular point that Samhitaya must be 111 is something really worth thinking about.
So Mahoday, एक प्रश्न.
हाँ.
So in all of this Rama plus Su, all of that is for Pada Nirmanam. What is different in sutras like Choho Kuhu or others where there is kind of a Sandhi Karyam, but it is not Pada Nirmanam or an Anga plus a Pratyaya or something
So
like
there
that?
is a Samhita which is not being told explicitly by Samhitayam. See what is happening. This entire section 8 to 30, 31, 32 is all about exactly these things, that there is a Samhita Sadrusham Karyam. Do not confuse between optional versus compulsory Samhita. That is at the level of Samhita. It is not at the level of Karya. You decide if there is a Samhita or not. If there is a Samhita, then you do the further Karya. Sometimes this Samhita is compulsory. Samhita ekapade nitya nitya dhatu pasargayoho nitya samase. So there are situations where Samhita is compulsory. Other places Samhita might be optional. Samhitayam adhikara is not about the compulsion or the choice of Samhita. It is about the karya inside the Samhita.
These sutrani, they resemble the Sandhi Karyam, but they are outside the Samhita. So what is special about these sutrani?
That is the whole question I am asking. What is the special thing about these three where they have explicitly written Samhita, whereas Samhita is a very common thing and you see it in Chohokuhu, you see it in Hodha, you see it in the Pratyaya Vidhana, you see it almost everywhere. So you should technically have 111 as Samhitayam. Is what we are proposing, and is a very fundamental question. Clear or not clear? So my question is now, is there anything in Ashtadhyayi where Samhita is not needed? Samnyas and paribhashas are special cases. Samnyas and paribhashas, they don't follow anything. So we will keep samnyas and paribhashas aside. Let's talk about vidhis. Is there a very fundamental concept in Sanskrit grammar that does not require Samhita? Think. Is there any very fundamental topic of Vyakarana Shastra which can exist without Samhita? Don't talk about sanyas and one corner case here, there, and pati shabdasya rupani and so on. Don't talk about any such things. Any fundamental concept in Vyakarana Shastra that
Tadhita,
does not require Samhita.
Tadhita.
Tadhita is a pratyaya. Pratyaya will require a Samhita. So understand this. Actually, you are correct in one sense. Do you know the concept of vritti? Does anybody know the concept of vritti?
Yeah, there are 5 vrittis.
Very nice. What 5 vrittis?
One
Tadhita,
is
Samasa, Ekashesha, even Kridanta is a vritti.
None of these vrittis require Samhita. Sitayaha gacchati sahapatihi. Is this not same as saha sitapatihi gacchati? Sitayaha gacchati
Mhm.
saha patihi. Sitayaha is at one corner, patihi is at another corner. Still I can combine them and say sitapatihi. Is there a samhita here? No. Understand, this is a realization. You do not need samhita for samasas. Himasya mahan ayam alayaha. Can't you rewrite the statement as ayam mahan himalayah? Pachati ramaha saha. Pachati and saha can be combined to form pachaka and will pratyaya. Apatyam ayam dasharathasya. Apatyam and dasharathasya can be combined to form dasharathi. You do not need samhita for the most fundamental karyas of Sanskrit. Samasa does not need a samhita. Tadhita does not need a samhita. Krudanta does not need a samhita in the Vigraha Vakya. So Vigraha Vakyeshu, because fundamentally Vakya sa vivaksham apikshate. So in a Vakya there is no samhita, and that Vakya can be combined, rewritten to do the further karyas like Tadhita Vritti and so on. Now, before you ask any further questions, understand this point. Let's take a simple example of Sitayaha Gacchati Patihi. From Sitayaha gacchati patihi to Sitayaha plus patihi. For coming to this place, you don't need a samhita. Understand this again. The Vigraha Vakya is Sitayaha gacchati patihi. From that, you decide to do the samasa and you combine the word Sitayaha and patihi together. At this level, you don't need a samhita. Beyond that, for doing the samasa karya, you will need the samhita. So subluk and whatever sandhis are needed and further karyas, there you will need samhita. But the decision of whether you want to do the samasa does not require samhita. In the same way, Dasharathasya idam apatyam. Atra Dasharathasya and apatyam combining and bringing the iya pratyaya does not require samhita. Once the iya pratyaya sits over there, there must be samhita between Dasharatha and iya, and you can do the further prakriya. So the very fundamental operations of grammar, namely putting a tadhita pratyaya, putting a krudanta pratyaya, creating a samasa, the first step of that does not require samhita when you are starting from the laukika vigraha. Laukika vigraha, Dasharathasya idam apatyam. पाचकः सः देवदत्तः सीतायाः गच्छति अयं पतिः एतेषु सर्वेषु अपि वाक्येषु संहिता नापेक्ष्यते तत्र तथापि समासनिर्माणं सम्भवति एकवारं समासस्य प्रथमः सोपानः स्वीक्रियते चेत् अग्रे संहिता आवश्यकी अस्ति and therefore you cannot have one samhitayam because you have entire krudanta prakaranam, you have entire tadhita prakaranam, you have entire samasa prakaranam. None of that is in the samhita adhikara. Pratyaya attachment is in the samhita adhikara, but the concept of putting a pratyaya in front of the object, that particular concept, which is a higher level entity, is not in samhita adhikara at all.
What will be the implication if it is in the Samhita Adhikara, Mahatya?
The implication would be that in Sitayaha gacchati patihi, you cannot create a samasa and you cannot create an equivalent statement called Sitapatihi gacchati. Sitayaha and patihi do not need a samhita to create or to come together to start forming a samasa. Once a samasa formation is decided, you need a samhita. But in order to say that I am going to rewrite the word Sitayaha gacchati patihi to form Sitayaha patihi, and Sitapati does not require samhita.
So we are saying that the vivaksha is not requiring the samhita, but later on when we do the karyams, we need the samhita.
So Vivaksha is intention. Vivaksha is a very vague word.
Ah,
Samhita is not needed when you want to do the samasa. Samhita is needed when you're actually doing the samasa. You get what I'm saying?
oh,
Samhita is
yeah.
not needed when you decide that I want to do Bahuvrihi samasa. For applying sutras like Anekamanya Padarthe, for applying sutras like Shashti, for Shashti Tatpurusha samasa, for applying sutras like Dvitiya Shrita Tita Patita Gatya Tyasta Prapta Pannaihi, for Dvitiya samasa, does not require samhita. Once you decide and fix that you want to do a samasa and you keep the purva padam on one side and uttara padam on another side, you have already made your mind that you want to do the samasa. There is no going back. Now you need samhita for all those further processing, interaction of letters or pratyaya, anga, whatever is there, you need samhita over there. I am not saying that all that is included in these samhita adhikaras. I am not saying that. There will still be karyas which are not in these samhitadhikaras, but I am only explaining why samhitayam cannot be 111. There are significantly large number of karyas in Ashtadhyayi which do not require samhita. In fact, the major chunk of Ashtadhyayi does not require samhita. Samasa is 2.1, 2.2, does not require samhita. Krudanta is entire chapter 3, does not require samhita. Tadhita is chapter 4 and chapter 5, does not require samhita. Clear?
Okay.
And that is the reason why samhita begins at 6.1. First occurrence of samhita is at 6.1, then he has 6.3, and then he has 8.2. And then we are asking why samhita is missed or missing in other places somewhere here and there, like when the pratyaya is added, why there is no samhita.
Like before Swaja Samot Shash, why is he not saying Samhitayam?
Not just even that, so Swauja Samochas is a very special case because it's only dealing with supratyas. See, what happens is, let's take an example of Tadhita Prakaranam. Say, Dasharathasya apatyam ityatra Dasharatha iti shabdat iya iti pratyaya vidhiyate. This particular pratyaya must be next to the word Dasharatha. So where is the Samhita? Samhita must be present between the words Dasharatha and iya. Only then the Asharathi will be formed. But do you need the Samhita to keep Dasharatha and Iya next to each other and decide to do the final form? No, because Dasharathasya apatyam is a higher level concept. It does not require Samhita to apply the apatya pratyaya on Dasharatha and create a word called, or decide to create a new form called Dasharathi. Is this
So,
confusing? Because further all argument is going to be based on this. You need to
Mahoday, how
understand
do
this
you
point.
explain the parascha then? Like in when they are defining pratyayas, there itself they are saying parascha. The pratyayas have to be added after the pratipadikam. The same way, if they do a samhita, that could also mean when the pratyaya is added, after that a samhita is needed. That it can be interpreted that way, right?
No, you are confusing and missing one important step. Parascha ityanena kimuchyate. The pratyaya has to be added after the pratipadikam. So
Correct.
where is to be pratyaya kept? It is to be kept in the samhita associated with the pratipadikam. So there must be a samhita between the pratipadikam and pratyaya. When it comes to physically placing the pratyaya, you need a samhita. The idea of applying a pratyaya does not require samhita. You can decide to apply a pratyaya without having samhita. When you physically take that pratyaya and decide to apply it, you need samhita. But idea of applying a pratyaya does not need samhita at all. You can still see, first of all, first thing you have to, that is the reason I started with vritti. Let's take a tadhita pratyaya. Iya iti pratyaya dasharatha iti shabdat kada vidhiyate. You cannot randomly put the word dasharatha plus iya together. When you want to put the iya pratyaya in front of dasharatha, when you need to express the meaning of apatyam, तस्य अपत्यम इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे इयं प्रत्ययः भवति. So unless there is a meaning in your mind, you cannot add apatya pratyaya called iya over there. Now this meaning to pratyaya transformation does not need samhita. You can still say apatyam khadati dasharathasya. There is no samhita between apatyam and dasharathasya, and still you can have apatya pratyaya called iya sitting next to dasharatha. Clear? All that I'm trying to answer is why not have Samhitayam as 111. That's all that I'm saying. Therefore, we all now agree on one common ground that there are three Samhitadhikaras accepted, no question about it, but there are karyas which are equivalent to Samhita but not in the Samhitadhikara. So that is the first observation that we all must agree upon. There are karyas like choho kuhu. Let's take only one example, like choho kuhu, where the ch is getting converted to k, which actually requires something very similar to samhita, or parascha requires something very similar to samhita, but it is not in the samhita dhikara. So there are karyas in Ashtadhyayi which are not in the samhita dhikara. That is the first point. The second point is, you cannot generalize this observation and say entire Ashtadhyayi should be in Samhitadhikara, so put 111 as Samhitayam. Don't go to that extreme also, because there are a lot of very important karyas. Samasa Vidhanam does not require Samhita. Pratyaya Vidhanam, like Tadhita Vidhanam, does not require Samhita. Krut Vidhanam does not require a Samhita. So you cannot put Samhita blanketly at the beginning. There should be some individual sections specifying the Samhita, but it looks like what Panini has done is not sufficient. There should be other situations also where he should have put Samhita Adhikara.